Happy Friday morning, everybody. Thank y'all for turning on the radio and putting the spot right here on WCLU. This is Sam Terry, well-known historian and local hero, Sam, of all the historical things going on around here, and is going to join me in the studio for a 100-year rollback of the history that got us to where we are. It's called the Archives. You okay, sir?
I'm doing well. How are you today, Henry?
I'm good. We've had a fabulous week this week here, and just a festive, even though it's been hot. The Archives are really heated up with fabulous articles. So you want to do the Friday edition here, sir?
Absolutely.
Well, I'm going to thank some of the volunteers before we start. Of course, Debbie Pace and Sam Terry and Gail Berry, along with, Wanda Houchins, Gwen Dunn, Patricia Peden, and William Sanderson, just to name a few of the folks involved in preserving our heritage. This was the day in 1924, 100 years ago this day, that Cave City suffered a disastrous fire Tuesday morning at an early hour. The fire originated in the restaurant of Mr. Henry Lewis, called the Busy Bee Restaurant, and spread rapidly to the adjoining grocery of Mr. Eugene Gardner, both buildings being consumed. Adjoining buildings caught fire, a considerable section of the roof of the Masonic Lodge being burned off. The fire departments of Horse Cave and Glasgow were called, and the Horse Cave men were on the ground in half an hour or less and did valiant work.
It's a terrible loss.
But indeed. Took out a big section of town there at Cave City.
It did
sure.
Indeed.
The Glasgow Republican in 1934 has the following dispatch: the rural schools of the county, with the exception of Hiceville, Slick Rock, and Temple Hill, will begin on Monday, July the 16th. Okay, this is one of those uniquely Sam Terry questions. If there are 3 schools that weren't going to start on Monday the 16th, how many schools were going to start?
Well, that would be a good question. I'd have to do a little study on that.
But you would tell me that this was back in the day when we had quite a few one-room schools.
Yes, we still had a number in 1934, and of course the tobacco was set at this point.
Yes.
And not as much help was needed on the farm with farm chores, especially related to tobacco,
right.
Until later on. So what better to do than start school in the middle of July?
Nothing else to do. Why not start while it's hot? That's what they did. 1944, Sam, let's look at this story in the Glasgow Times. Fellow townsmen of Dr. C.C. Howard will turn out in full force tonight to pay tribute to him and to some 75 others, including leading members of the medical profession over the state and legislators who were active with Dr. Howard in successfully pushing through the recently enacted tuberculosis sanatorial program. Yes, Dr. Howard was not afraid of a challenge.
Not at all.
And this was a big deal right here to get this tuberculosis program going there, going back to 1944.
It certainly was, and it was several more years before we saw the construction of the TB hospital here in our community.
Indeed.
Thanks to Dr. Howard. But he performed a great work there.
We've had lots of crime news this week. This is an interesting story. Beware, you would-be criminals, because this was the day in 1954 the Glasgow Police Department got a lie detector. All right, the story in the Glasgow Times and Evening Journal is the Glasgow Police Department has received a new lie detector equipment and will have it in operation shortly, according to Chief Thomas Lyle. The detector results of which are sometimes admitted as evidence in criminal cases was purchased with the proceeds from a policeman's ball recently held. Glasgow is one of the few cities of this size in Kentucky to own a lie detector. Glasgow policemen will receive instructions on the proper use of the machine from a Chicago expert. The detector is the latest piece to modernize crime detection. Here of equipment received in an effort since Chief Lyle took over the department earlier this year. A fingerprinting outfit and special related equipment is already in use. What about that in 1954? I think when I read that story, I'm thinking about, All those old TV shows, The Untouchables, they were all in Chicago. So, my goodness, if we're going to learn how to use that thing, we got a Chicago expert down here to teach us how to use the lie detector. 1954. This day in 1964, Sam, Dr. Harold Cady is now open in a new office location in the Barlow Building over the J.J. Newberry Company. He was formerly located over in the Davis Building. But I remember when there's some remodeling work going on right now in that building where Dr. Cady's office was, and I think about when his practice was up there when I drive by and see that work going over on the upstairs part of what was the pawn shop at one time. Let's fast forward here to 1974. Some more physicians to talk about, and a good one for sure. Dr. Ray Allen Gibson, a specialist in gynecology and obstetrics, has joined the staff of the Howard Clinic as of July the 1st. What a catch we had right there. Of course, he appeared on these airwaves a number of years as the good doctor of Goodnight. Dr. Ray Allen Gibson, a specialist coming to town. And, this is 1974. To have that, I guess, specific of a specialty was pretty rare in a community this size. But Dr. Gibson met the need for sure.
Well, he did, and meant a lot to a lot of folks.
No question about it. And what a kind, gentle man for sure. It was this day in 1984, President Ronald Reagan visited Mammoth Cave and Beach Bend Park. That was a big deal. I remember that well. I was living in Bowling Green, and our son had just been born, and that helicopter coming from Fort Campbell on the way to Mammoth Cave flew over our house. So you don't forget those little things there when the president flies over your house.
Exactly.
You make a note of that.
Exciting day.
That's right. It was this day in 1994 we learned that the American Martial Arts Academy students Chris Jones and Josh Bratcher recently competed in the Bluegrass National Karate Championship in Louisville. Jones won second place. Bratcher won fourth place. That's some big accomplishments for these young fellas. American martial artists from Glasgow, Sam. Here we have in 2004 the Caverna class of 1954 meeting May 21st for their 50th reunion at the Park Mammoth Resort. I'm sure the class of 54 was an excellent class, and that was a great place to have that reunion for sure.
Site of a lot of great times there.
In 2014, we crowned the Miss Hart County Fair for 2014. 10 years ago this day that Rachel Leanne Rolls was crowned Miss Hart County Fair. Congratulations. What a great way to wrap up the week with a good county fair story, sir.
It certainly is.
So that's what we have in the way of archives for today. A big thank you to you. Thank you to all the volunteers at the Cultural Center. If you want to be a group of some folks who love what they do and who accomplish a whole lot in a short period of time, they'd like to talk to you down there at the Cultural Center. Just give them a call down there at 651-9792 and say, hey, I'd love to volunteer. What can I help you do? That would be sweet music to their ears at the Cultural Center. We'll come back and share some more on Monday on the archive. Sam, have a good weekend, sir.
You too.
And thanks for joining us here on WCLU.